Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon is going to join me, and we're going to talk through Joel Embiid in a incident with a reporter, let's go with. And then we're also going to talk about the NBA Panic Meter. We picked out 5 teams that are currently struggling and how concerned they should be about their struggles to open the season. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie.
Step and
But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? Coming off a Pistons W here, energy level is pretty good. Seeing them get their second win of the season, especially as Andrew mentioned after what we saw on Friday night from the Pistons.
Yeah.
And some unfortunate news: our high school football season ended on Friday, so that was just a disaster. We lost. Opened up my phone. Pistons got blasted by 30. That was not a good evening for me. So better Sunday afternoon than Friday night.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny before the show. So I haven't watched the Pistons Nets game that just ended yet. But the thing that I just said to you was simply that they need to win these games. They've played well in 5 of their 6 games to start the year, right? And they only had 1 win to show for it. Not getting that, I don't know, that enthusiasm that comes with a win when you're playing well. Right. That's what's hard, I think, sometimes for teams. I think that's what can lead to downward spirals. So feeling that you're doing the right things, getting that reinforcement for doing the right things, I think is really important for this Pistons team right now. And beating a Nets team, even if it was an ugly game where it was 106-94, is really, really important, I think, for the Pistons.
I mean, I think it's the same idea when we talk about a young guard, point guard, creator, whatever you want to say, and trying to get them to make the right decisions. Well, it's hard to reinforce that when they drive and kick, and then the person they kick to misses or doesn't even shoot it because it's a non-shooter. And so I think it's the same idea as whenever you get those guys in and now you drive and kick and it's a 3-point make, and you drive and kick and it's a 3-point make, and you're like, oh, this feels right. This feels better. It's the same idea with if we do the right things, if we really defend, which is really what they did today. I told you, I didn't think the Nets played particularly well, but I came on here and said, hey, I want to talk about Cam Thomas and Dennis Schroeder last week, and they held those guys really down in this game. Cam Johnson was the only player that really hurt them for the Nets. And so I got to give their defense a little bit of credit. So it's good vibes. They got to come back on Monday and play the Lakers. We'll see how they respond on a back-to-back. But, you know, even for this team getting to 2-5, which I mentioned to you, that's a 24-win pace right now, which I know for most fan bases is like, oh, gross. But for the Pistons, I mean, it's being led by the 2 young guards, and that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important that Cade and Jaden are playing well right now. Again, I know Tobias Harris is already a bit of a whipping boy in Detroit right now, but even just his sheer presence, okay, good.
I don't love the mid-post isolation stuff, but he had some big buckets and then drew double teams. The dagger was a Harris mid-post isolation that drew a double, and then Beasley hit a weak side corner. So you've mentioned it, his sheer gravity makes a difference for this team, along with his rebounding and some of those things.
That's absolutely right. Okay, so the Pistons-Nets decision to play a basketball game this weekend was not the biggest story of the weekend. The biggest story of the weekend was Joel Embiid. He had an incident, let's go with a reporter, Marcus Hayes of the Philadelphia Inquirer. So let's lay out all of what happened here. The incident seems to be, and we'll play audio from Kyle Neubeck, who was there and immediately went on to Philly Sports after and talked about it. The incident is that Joel Embiid had an argument with this reporter and eventually got to the point where he shoved him. The context here, I think, is critical to share. So we'll just share on my screen. what led to this, right? So Marcus Hayes is an Inquirer columnist who wrote this lead to his story. Joel Embiid consistently points to the birth of his son Arthur as the major inflection point in his basketball career. He often says that he wants to be great, to leave a legacy for the boy named after his little brother, who tragically died in an automobile accident when Embiid was in his first year as a 76er. Well, in order to be great at your job, you first have to show up to work. Embiid has been great at just the opposite. Now in his 11th season, he consistently has been in poor condition. This poor conditioning apparently seems to have delayed his debut this season. Embiid won't play in Wednesday's opener or the next 2 games. Okay, so couple of things here. I just can't fathom writing something like that. Like, to compare, whether this writer meant to or not, Marcus Hayes, the idea of leaving a legacy for his son, who he named after his brother who passed away, who I believe was hit by a car when he was like 13 years old, is so beyond the pale. It's just like so completely out of pocket to me. Also, even structurally, I don't think it's written well. Like, I think that it is such a strange non sequitur to the point that he's trying to make, that I don't know how it got past like the editorial process if you're going to write something like that. So Embiid on Friday then gets up at his press conference and is very clearly frustrated. He calls out Marcus Hayes by name and is very clearly mad about this. Rightfully so. I don't really have a problem with Embiid being mad about this. Let's go to Kyle Neubeck now, who was there and saw the post game after their loss to the Memphis Grizzlies on Saturday night.
Marcus Hayes, who everyone knows was on Joel's radar this week, gave a lengthy quote, taking shots at him yesterday. Marcus was present in the locker room, and the second that Joel realized he was there, got into a verbal back and forth. Obviously, we can't repeat many of the words that were said on the show. The basic gist of it was basically, you can say I suck. You can say whatever you want about me as a player. Don't ever put my dead brother's name in your mouth. Don't talk about my family. Don't bring them into this. You want to talk to me like a man and talk to me about basketball. That's different. But if you ever talk about my family again, we're going to have real problems. They go kind of back and forth. And at some point, let's say 90 seconds to 2 minutes into this back and forth, Joel shoves him. Team security steps in. Players kind of surround the situation. And everyone kind of dispersed. Nick Nurse.
So Kyle, I think, is like a very trustworthy source here, because Kyle's just not really afraid to go after the team. He's not afraid to talk negatively about other writers. Like, Kyle is somebody that I really respect in terms of his decisions to tell it like it is. So I completely understand. I think Kyle's a good, reputable source here. Adam Aronson over at Philly Voice, which is where Kyle used to work, described, what he saw. Embiid's core message was he had no issue with Hayes or anybody else in the media saying whatever they wanted about his play on the court, but he believed Hayes had crossed the line by bringing up Embiid's child and brother. At one point, Embiid made a comment about the consequences that would ensue if Hayes mentioned Embiid's family again. He commented this was not the first time he was having this issue with Hayes. Hayes told Embiid that he had never mentioned Embiid's son or brother in a story prior to that one. Hayes attempted to interject a few times, but Embiid did not give him an extended chance to speak. Hayes asked Embiid if he could apologize. Hayes had said earlier in the conversation that he regretted mentioning Embiid's son and brother, and clarified that the paragraph containing the references had been removed from the column. Embiid conveyed that he was not interested in any sort of apology. As the confrontation appeared to be nearing its end, Embiid became physical with Hayes, putting his hands in the area of Hayes' shoulders. Hayes stumbled a couple of steps backward, maintaining his footing. Hayes did not appear to be physically harmed in any way. As this occurred, Embiid's teammates restrained him to ensure the situation would not escalate any further. There was no punch made or attempted by Embiid. So that I think gives like a full picture of what happened here. Multiple sources of people there. My like just immediate reaction here was pretty simple, and I tweeted a few times, and you know, tweeting about things is never a good idea, right? Basically, like I just wanted more details. We have more details now, and I kind of like talked through like just where I see the blame in this situation. And I mean, first and foremost, like what is this dude doing? Like writing this? This is insane to me. Do not write things that like you would not say to the person. This isn't that hard. Like, do not write things that you wouldn't be comfortable, you know, going up to the person and talking through, right? That's just like the most basic piece of this. I mean, Bryce, like I've talked for a while now. You can go ahead and explain.
No, I have 2 points. Like one, he could have got his point across without mentioning that. Like he could have made the point of Joel Embiid not being ready to play this season or whatever without adding that in there. And I think that's why, like to be honest with you, Sam, I have a physical reaction as you read it because I put myself in Joel's shoes, and I've been fortunate enough not to experience tragedy like that at this point in my life. But if I had, and I had a namesake that represented a moment in my life like that, I would hold that stuff pretty close to me. So I have a physical reaction, and like I have no affiliation with Joel or anything like that. So that's what bothers me. And as I think about this, even if you were trying to send a message to Joel, like, Joel, you're not living right. Like, remember this. You know who that conversation comes from? Like his best friend in the world, not a reporter who he obviously has a bad history with. You know what I mean? Like, and that's if Joel's living wrong, like living his life wrong, not maybe not ready for the NBA season or something like that is a real human to human, heartfelt, tears, hugs, everything type of conversation, not a throwaway paragraph to start an article about the start of an NBA season.
Well, yeah, and that's where my issue comes in with the, like what he wrote is just think about where Joel Embiid comes from, just like big picture for a second, right? Like Joel Embiid comes from a not great situation in Cameroon. He has gone on to go to Kansas, become this incredible basketball player, win MVP of the NBA, make $400 million, whatever the hell.
Win an Olympic gold medal. Win an
Olympic gold medal for his adopted country. In what world is this guy's legacy not secure? Like, think about just coming from where he came from to what he is now. This guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like no matter what happens, like if Philadelphia doesn't win a title or whatever, he's still going to be a Hall of Famer. So to equate his legacy and wanting to make a legacy with his unfortunately passed brother who died earlier than he should have.
And I believe there was more context in that video of like Joel. It really, I mean, obviously if you lose a sibling, it eats at you, but his brother was back in Cameroon while Joel was over here living out his dream. And because of that, it sounds like Joel like holds a little bit more weight because of that, which I think we can all understand. And so like, it's just, it's only a conversation if Joel's throwing his life away and you're his closest friend who needs to like wake him up. And we're 50 million miles away from that type of situation. It shouldn't be touched by his closest friend about the NBA, let alone a writer. I do not understand why this guy felt the need to go there.
Well, it's just like dehumanizing on some level, in my opinion. And that's generally where I struggle with things. And that's why like I tend to keep what we do here to basketball for the
Yeah.
most part. We'll talk about some things, right? But like we mostly talk about basketball. And if we're going to criticize people, like we definitely keep the basketball, because that's, we're going to talk about like the panic meter today, and we're going to talk about Denver, and we're going to talk about Milwaukee. Like we're going to be critical here, but we're going to keep it to basketball, right? So that's point number one. Point number two, like I have no idea where the editorial oversight was on this. Like, what are we doing? Truly, like that's my biggest thing. Just what are we doing here editorially at the Philadelphia Inquirer of letting this go? Editors tend to exist to save writers from themselves on some level. Blame goes to the writer for thinking this and writing this first and foremost. But yeah, the third place here I do want to bring up just generally is, if I'm the 76ers and I see what happens on Friday and Joel Embiid goes to his press conference and calls this dude out like multiple times publicly, I'm probably trying to set up a call between these two and just letting Joel like get all of this off of his chest, because he clearly had something he needed to say to the guy. Right. And I don't blame him for that. We had someone in the YouTube comments ask, what was the writer doing there after the article, or just after the article got published in the locker room? I think the article happened like a week ago.
I wondered about this also. Like, would that set a bad precedence though, not allowing him in there? Or do you feel like this,
so
maybe this is where you're going?
So
should the Sixers have kept him
I'll talk
out?
through that.
Okay.
So the Sixers should not have kept him out. It's a story if they keep him out.
Okay.
So that's a bad idea.
Okay.
Number two, just thinking about it from their perspective, right? Like, if you do this and you keep him out after that article, like it becomes a whole thing. The Inquirer will make it a thing. So you can't do that. In my opinion, what you do is you set up a phone call between Joel and the writer, let them say what they have to say. Certainly let Joel say what he has to say. It seems like the writer understood that he made some errors and wanted to apologize. Hopefully, you come to an ability to do that. If you do that, that reduces, in my opinion, the impact of Joel seeing this guy and just like seeing red immediately. Yeah. Right. Sure. So if I was on the Philly like communication side, and if I was Daryl Morey and everybody like that, I would have probably tried to like figure out a call here as soon as, because this guy's going to be around. Like, he's the columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Like, there's no avoiding this. So you have to make sure that everybody is in a space where they can work together within the same workspace. Because at the end of the day, like, the locker room is the NBA, players' space, but it is also a writer's workspace where they have to be able to, everyone has to be comfortable there, right? In Joel's case, I would expect Joel's going to be suspended for this.
Sure.
And I have no problem with him being suspended for putting his hands on this guy.
I don't either.
Yeah, I think he should. Like, I think that you cannot set this precedent if you're the NBA that this is a possible thing.
In the same way that you can't write that and not expect some sort of something coming back, Joel can't put his hands on a reporter in the locker room and not expect something back. Can't say that I blame Joel, but I think Joel should expect the suspension, take it, and maybe he needed to get that emotion out of him, and which I understand. I also understand the league having to send a message in this case.
And I don't really have a problem with it being like particularly long. Like, if it's like 8 or 10 games, like, so be it, right? You probably have to do something to stop this from happening on some level. Having said that, I also I'd like to know more. Like, was the guy just like purely apologetic, like going in, and was he just like, hey, like, I really screwed up here, dude. Like, I'm sorry. Like, was it that, or was he like going back and forth? It kind of sounds like there was a back and forth based off the way Kyle explained it. Based off the way that, Adam Aronson in the Philly Voice wrote it, it sounded like he was pretty apologetic even when he was going back and forth. I would like to know more before I say like Joel was right or wrong in this.
I don't think there's a right or wrong. Yeah, he was
like,
wrong.
He was wrong, but
do you understand why it got to that point? I think is where I think you would have to literally be in the moment to read body language and tone and stuff like that to feel how understanding you would be that Joel got to that point, because
totally.
I think that's where it's definitely wrong. I think both of us agree. You can't just go around putting your hands on people regardless of what they have said or done to you. But with that said,
in
there
a
are times,
workspace, especially, to be clear too.
yeah, there are times where you understand somebody gets in a state of mind where they allow themselves to get to that place, even if it is wrong. We would never say it's right, but there's a part of it where you could understand. Again, like you said, if he was super apologetic and non-confrontational and stuff like that, I think it is less understanding that Joel felt the need to eventually put his hands on him. Yelling at him is one thing. Putting his hands on him is another thing.
Agree. So yeah, like, but before I like sit here and like blame Embiid for anything, I want to like I want to understand even more about the context before like placing blame there.
Sure.
I mean, Keith Pompey at the Philly Inquirer like made this a bigger thing than it was, saying that like Embiid punched him.
Yeah.
He definitely didn't do that, based off of all of the follow-on reporting that has occurred. That was bad. Do not do that. Do not just randomly say that stuff before, and like make sure that
Was
you're
he in the
putting out the
locker room?
context.
Because he
I'm
covers
sure
the
he
Sixers,
was.
right?
Yeah, he covers the Sixers. I'm sure he was.
Wow.
That's a guess. I don't know that. That's a pure guess. I want to be clear. We're sticking mostly to facts on this, while interjecting our opinion. I would guess based off of that. Here's the other thing I do just want to like point out, right? None of this is good. None of this is valuable for anybody. None of this is helpful for anybody, right? Like, reporters generally that go into the locker room have like a difficult situation, right? They have to have like something of a relationship. Some guys have great relationships. Some guys have professional relationships. It's a different kind of deal, right? Depending on the player, depending on the writer, beat writer, everything like that. Stuff like this column, makes their life harder. Stuff like what Joel did makes their life harder. I am assuming that where the next follow on is going to be is like, this is going to be like some sort of like gas on the fire for the NBA, where they try to potentially, like try and, remove people from the locker room, remove reporters from the locker room.
I need to ask Amari about where he stands on this. I assume he likes having the access back, but I need to talk to him about how hard it was
Every
to
reporter,
how hard it
every
was to do his
reporter
job
wants,
without.
yeah,
It is
every
an
reporter wants locker room access.
I've been in a locker room one time as a media member, and it is kind of an awkward situation because this team has just played a game. Sometimes they've just lost. Like, it's kind of like just, it's not a free for all, but like everybody's kind of doing, it's not formal at all, right? So it is a weird scenario as you stand around, wait for your ability to talk to a player and stuff like. And as a former player, I feel bad for them that they're even having to do it. So it is a weird situation that I've always thought was kind of weird, that it was open to media. But if it's part of their job, it's part of their job. Like, if they need it to do their job to the best of their ability.
So the reason that it's in the locker room is generally like the players can't avoid the locker room, right? And thus it makes it so like, even if you did like a separated space out, right, where you say, okay, players get 15 minutes to cool down, then they have to come out and do media obligations like in a separate media space kind of deal, the players would still just try and avoid it and get out of it. So from that perspective, like, I do side with the media on the side of, hey, like, locker room access is important, and being able to interview players in that manner is important. Having said that, like, this whole situation just makes everything just more complicated and fraught in a way that is, I'm intrigued to see where the league comes down on this. There's obviously been like a push in the WNBA, certainly, in regard to restricting locker room access. Look, I wouldn't be surprised by any stretch if that was true in the NBA. Speaking extemporaneously and not, having knowledge. Like, I'm, not a leader of the Pro Basketball Writers Association. You know what I mean? I don't know, what they've gone through in terms of that. So yeah, it's a complicated deal. I am generally probably more willing to like hear out Joel's side though than I am anything else.
Yeah, that's I mean,
I have a little bit more time for Joel on this just because Joel, like that column was so out of pocket. It is just so ridiculous to me. Like I can't fathom writing something that ridiculous about somebody's family. That's insane to me.
and especially it was, I want to finish off, I guess for me is it was completely unnecessary to use that to make his point. Everybody would have got his point if he just made it without that. That's what's so frustrating. And again, I think that's what makes it feel so it was obviously personal, but it makes it feel so personal because it didn't need to be used or said in any capacity. We all know that Joel's missing games. We all know that he has. We all know this. He could have just written it. And
yeah,
it just, again, I think when things like that give me a physical reaction, I guess I have a little bit more understanding of other people's reactions, right or wrong. And I'm not saying it was right, but I have a little more understanding when I literally have a physical reaction in my stomach when I hear you read it or I read it myself or whatever, because it just hits me at an emotional level.
Yeah, no, I mean, like that's just a crazy, crazy thing to write, in my opinion. And I don't have it's hard for me to wrap my head around writing something like that because like I just don't do that. I don't live in that world. Like I don't, I don't. Yeah, that's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me. Like you, as a writer, you are not above the fuck around and find out fray. Like I was texting a friend about this whole situation, and that was like the way that he phrased it, and I think it was really good. That is a perfect phrase for this. Like, do I think that you should like do this in the locker room? No, again, it's a workspace, right? But like, I don't know, like Joel feels some type of way and like is frustrated about that. It's hard for me to like, I'm not condoning it, but like, it's hard for me to just be like, that's catastrophic to me, I guess.
Yep.
It's hard.
Like,
You, again, seriously, you are not above the fuck around and find out fray as a writer.
Yep. You can write whatever you want, but there's repercussions. Like I tell my students that all the time.
Yeah.
It's a free country. You're right, with repercussions for your actions, your words, and everything else. So yes.
And here's the thing. Like I've had players disagree with what I've written in terms of like an evaluation before. I've had coaches get frustrated about like different things that I've published about players, about, whatever, right? Doing draft stuff. There's never been a circumstance where they've been anything other than, hey, I disagree with you. Here's why. And we have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've had people like, I've had like freaking John Calipari like tweet angrily about what I wrote. Like, it's fine. Most players, I promise you, like having had these experiences, most players are more than willing to have a conversation with you about stuff on the court. They might disagree with you, but like, even if they do disagree with it, they might not say anything about it, right? It's fine, for them. It is it's fine. It's just that when you start bringing in family and when you start bringing in, like, it is a different kind of vibe. It's a different deal, and you are setting yourself up in a different situation, in my opinion.
Keith Smith had the same story. I listened to, their pod, and he brought up the same thing that I don't remember the coach off the top of my head now, that he said he had critiqued rotations or something, and the coach reached out to him and explained it. And Keith was like, well, I understand now. I still don't agree, but I understand. And they talk. I mean, again, that's what's beautiful about what we get to do, Sam, is me and you don't even see the game. I think you're extremely smart at the game of basketball and understanding 100%. It. And I guess arrogantly, I think I am as well. And you and I see things differently. And we can watch the same play and have different opinions on it. And that's what makes sports great. But we keep it to sport. And that's what it's about to me.
And like, look, like there are people who don't want to keep it to sports. That's totally good with me. Like, people want to dive into the political side of players. People want to do that stuff. By all means, feel free. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you shouldn't do it, but you got to deal with the repercussions when that happens. Exactly. And when you bring in family, like, that's where it gets really complicated. That's where it gets really, really complicated. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I sit on this. I think there's a lot of blame to go around a lot of places. And I think the entire situation is a bit unfortunate, I guess, more than anything else, in my opinion.
Yep. I agree.
Okay. You know, it's not unfortunate though. The folks over at PrizePicks. The folks over at PrizePicks are the absolute best because they are the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. We love PrizePicks here over at Game Theory because of just how easy they make it to get real money sports action. If you think Justin Jefferson's going to get more than 83.5 yards next week, you can make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. My picks this week: Jamar Chase, more than 79.5 receiving yards. Patrick Mahomes, more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. You can download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use that code Game Theory, GAMETHEORY, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Also, this episode is brought to you by the good folks over at BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a sponsor of this show, and this month is all about gratitude. There's someone that we don't often think about and thank enough when it comes to gratitude, and it's ourselves. Sometimes it's hard to remind ourselves that we're trying our best to make sense of everything in the world, and it's just not that easy. Here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, including yourself. Look, I'm someone who's absolutely gone to therapy before, particularly when I got diagnosed with ADHD. Like, it helped me immensely understand myself and understand particularly how to put boundaries on my interests, including work. If you're starting therapy, you should absolutely give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Game Theory, GAMETHEORY, today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Game Theory. Go on over to BetterHelp. Okay, Bryce, it's time for us to dive into the panic meter. There are 5 teams here that we should at least discuss in regard to how worried are we, how not worried are we? Is their start reason for concern? Is the start something that's going to cause issues for them in the future? Everything like that. And maybe the first place to start is Philly. We'll just transition from Embiid to Philly, right? So the 76ers currently have started out the season 1-4. They are not playing well. There's just not another way to put it. They have a 9.2 point differential, a negative 9.2 differential. That is the second worst in the NBA, behind or in front of only the Utah Jazz. It just feels like it is difficult for this team to do anything when Tyrese Maxey is not handling the ball in any way. If Maxey is not on the court, it's a real issue. Even when Maxey's out there, it's just really hard for them to get anywhere. And Maxey this season, he's shooting 38% from the field, 26% from the 3-point line, 82% from the line. Part of that is like every single shot he takes is incredibly difficult.
Yep.
So there's that side of it. The other side of it is that they're without Joel Embiid and Paul George, 2 guys that make $100 million combined and take up over 70% of their salary cap. What do we think about Philly right now based off of what we've seen? Is this first 5-game stretch of the season just like a pure write-off because they don't have their team? Or are they making their lives immensely more difficult by dropping these games?
Well, I think I thought they would be a little bit better even in non-Paul George, Joel Embiid games. Maybe I was thinking they would have one of the two. So it was more thinking, okay, they can survive if they just have Maxey and Embiid or Maxey and Paul George. Not having both creates real issues. And I think one thing I'm nervous about, Sam, is Maxey's playing 41 minutes a game and taking 26 shots a game. And I only say that I worry that to sustain that for very much of a season is a lot on him. And then I also found myself wondering today, okay, now he's going to go from that where he has to do everything. And then he has to take a backseat to at least Joel and Paul George in some capacity when he comes back. So there's going to take a little while to get that chemistry for him to figure out which shots he's going to take, which he isn't. He's going to have to play kind of not completely different, but a little bit different when those two guys do come back. So I think what worries me is where are they going to end up seeding wise if they continue to be this bad when they don't have these two guys? And then there was always the inherent worry of those two guys being healthy. And obviously they have no chance if they aren't.
So yeah. Okay. Let's just kind of think this through here. This is a team that outside of Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and I guess Drummond, like basically entirely new, right? Caleb Martin and Kelly Oubre was there last year as well, but like Caleb Martin, Jared McCain, Eric Gordon, Lowry got there late last year, Yabusele, like
KJ Martin.
Even if the big three guys in Joel, Paul George, and Tyrese weren't or were all incumbent, that would still take some time to integrate all of these players. But you also have Paul George who's being integrated, who is going to be a significant piece of this equation because he's going to take up a lot of usage on the wing. That is like a whole other piece that you have to integrate in a significant way. So I am a little bit more panicked about Philly than I thought I would be after 5 games, just because they are struggling in a real way, especially given their plan for Joel. It seems like is going to basically be to try and get him through to the playoffs, right? They want to get him as healthy as they can be for the playoffs. They might like really desperately need him like throughout the regular season, early on, especially while they try to get chemistry. And on top of it, if they don't get that chemistry going into the playoffs, they're probably not going to be as good in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got to figure some of this out. And I said KJ Martin just in a bigger role this year. Obviously, he was with the team last year, but playing almost double the minutes than he was for the team last year. I think that's my worry, Sam, is how do they figure out the chemistry between these guys? Obviously, Maxey and Embiid have it. How do you figure out the rotations? And here's the other thing. Like I say this about Tyrese Maxey, their second leading scorer right now is Kelly Oubre. You want to know, guess how many field goal attempts Kelly Oubre is taking right now per game?
I'd guess 16 or so.
16.
Feels like a lot.
16 and a half. Kelly Oubre is not taking 16 and a half field goal attempts when those guys get back. So everybody's being asked to play 2 roles above what they are whenever those guys get back. And for some guys, like I worry, okay, how easy is that for Kelly Oubre to fall back into if he plays 30 games during the regular season where he gets to be the guy that shoots 12 to 16 shots? How does he feel in the playoffs when it's like, no, Kelly, you get to take 7 wide open threes and nothing else. Do not do anything else other than that, and then go be disruptive defensively like he can be at times. Is Kelly Oubre going to be able to accept that, do it easily? Like, I think it's easy for us to say, oh yeah, guys will be able to fall into those roles. It's not always that easy, especially when you get the taste of 16 field goal attempts per game. Where would they be if he wasn't averaging 18 a game for them right now? And, he's not doing it on great efficiency, but Sam, against the Pistons, they finished the first quarter with this lineup: Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, Caleb Martin, KJ Martin, and Yabusele at center. And they had there's no offensive firepower
Yeah.
with that lineup. Not at this
Yeah.
point in especially Eric Gordon's career and even Kyle Lowry.
Well, and then Drummond. So for people, I'm going to go live and do like a thing where I, talk through tape and break down games later on, probably, I don't know, in 4 hours or so from now. And, again, shout out to people that have been sending off names for this. I do this 3 times a week. Night Shift is the one that's come up. What was it? It was Post Game Theory, was a good one that I liked. We'll be talking through some names at the end of the show, maybe. And, Andrew will try and come up and say, if you guys have suggestions, by all means. But I'm going to talk through some of what I saw from the Grizzlies, particularly in that game, because I haven't talked about the Grizzlies doing those yet. And the way Zach Edey dominated that game on the interior, because he just did not have to worry about where Andre Drummond was drastic. Like, we're going to run through clips like later on this channel in a separate video where we just really go through, and it's just like Edey is helping off of this dude, and he is completely dominating and taking over the interior defensively. He was really good, but it was because like teams just are not worried about Drummond even when he's out there. So like, you can talk about the Yabu at the 5 lineup not having a lot of juice offensively. I mean, like that lineup has more juice than that.
Yeah. I feel like they have to lean into Jared McCain, Sam. They got to let him come in. I think in their most recent game they did. I feel like he got double-digit shot attempts. I mean, he's averaging 8 a game right now anyway. I'm pulling up the game log. I feel like their most recent.
Jared had 19 in that game.
19.
Some of them came later, but yeah.
And he had 12 against the Pistons. And he's not just jacking through. Like he's getting in the paint as well. So I feel like they got to lean into him a little bit in these games. Can we take a sidetrack real fast? Because your Night Shift made me think of something. Your quick thoughts on Night of the Museum as a movie. Night at the Museum.
Fine.
Okay.
Like,
I think it's
I don't know that I have like a ton of thoughts on it. It was fun. Like when I saw it the first time, I had a good time.
I watched it today. It just happened to be on TV. And it's like, this is such an underrated movie. Yeah. Andrew says fun is the word. I agree, Andrew. It is very fun. Yeah. Sorry. Quick aside.
I'm more of a National Treasure guy, but
National Treasure is like my favorite movie to fall asleep to. That and The Day After Tomorrow, I would always pop those in DVD for our young listeners. Google it, but I would pop those into the DVD in the dorm room and just fall asleep to those 2 movies.
There it is. So McCain, I agree with you. Like he is somebody they should try and go to a little bit more. I think I would be intrigued to see that. Look, I'm a little bit worried. It is worth noting though, that as we're talking, Shams has reported that Paul George is going to make his debut on Monday here. So tomorrow is the time we're live here. Tomorrow, and he will play against the Phoenix Suns, barring any setbacks, which is exciting. We're finally going to get to see Paul George in Philadelphia. I think Paul George was super underrated last year, and a guy that can make a serious impact for them as like a star level player. I just hope he's, fully healthy and he's able to go.
Are we giving these a rating? Are we going to do that? Or are we just going to talk through it?
We'll go give a rating out of 10. Yeah.
Are we ready for the 6?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I think I'm at a 6.
Yeah, I would say somewhere between 6 and 7 to me. I'm less worried about them because we haven't seen them at full strength. I would say a 6 is probably about right if I'm being honest. Yeah.
I think the reason it's a little higher, the injury concerns were always there. What I'm nervous about now is how bad they're actually going to be without those 2 and where that could potentially put them in the standings, and then the uphill battle that could end up meaning. And it's hard to tell for sure right now, but what that could potentially mean for them come playoff time.
Yeah, agree. Okay. Next up, let's go to Milwaukee. Milwaukee is currently 1-5. I am a lot more worried about Milwaukee than I am the Sixers, even though Milwaukee also has a built-in injury excuse. Chris Middleton, has been out. Chris Middleton is incredibly important for them for multiple reasons. He is a solid defender. He's not like a great defender anymore, but he's solid enough. He can also get buckets and take some pressure off of Damian Lillard. Having said that, their defense is
Awful.
cataclysmic. Like,
Okay. Cataclysmic. That's a better word. That's a better word.
Like truly egregiously bad. So again, like on the night shift post game theory, whatever we want to call that show, I went through and like really dug into the Bucks defense. It's really bad on tape right now. It's really, really bad in terms of contain at the point of attack, in terms of transition defense and communication, togetherness. Like Brook Lopez, like he has his hands up on the court like way more often than what you want to see, wondering what just happened. So I am concerned about the Bucks defense. They are currently 24th in defensive rating. They gave up 114 points in a 1-point loss to the Cavs last night. I thought it was their best defensive performance of the season so far.
Oh,
I thought they
bad.
played.
That's really
like,
bad, dude.
They were like together. They showed real effort. They showed like second and third efforts. I thought they were really, really important. I thought Connaughton like played his best game at the point of attack defensively. But the big thing that they did, in my opinion, the biggest, most important thing defensively that this team has to lean into, in my opinion, is just play Andre Jackson. They have to play Andre Jackson. They played him like 15 to 20 minutes each of the last two games. This is a team that struggles with foot speed on defense. Just having him in there, it lifts the athleticism level to a whole different idea. He is such a bundle of energy out there that you really, really, really need his presence. He is critical to what they do.
I'm glad you said energy with him, because what's interesting is that Cavs Bucks game was kind of the first one I've really tuned into in depth. And I still was nervous with the defense. I thought Donovan kind of got to the lane whenever he wanted. DeLon Wright, Gary Trent Jr., he attacked both. Like Brook, like the foot speed was never a thing, but it's like if he's got to come up at all, it's the ball handler's going by, as good as he still is defending at the rim. But then there was like, and even the broadcast mentioned it, there was a rebound where they were the Bucks were the only guys in the lane, but the rebound came off and they all kind of just looked at each other. And then eventually Bobby Portis went and ran it down. And it was like, they started off that game insanely hot too. Like they were on fire. They were playing well offensively. And
I think they shot like 43% from three and still lost.
Yeah. And it was like, so that's what was concerning coming out of that game. And I know the Cavs may be playing better than anybody in the NBA right now, but you had 30-point outbursts from Giannis and Dame and some fourth quarter stuff from Dame, and you still couldn't get it done. And to me, that's where the panic is. Like they're losing games against these non-elite teams, but even against an elite team right now, anyway, in the Cavs, playing your two best players playing their best, it still isn't enough. And that's where like we grade them on championship level, and that's concerning.
Well, and like Memphis is another team, right? So like Memphis, you know, again, having just watched this Philly game, I've watched them, I think twice this year now. Like their whole thing is they're just pushing. Like they're just pushing tempo. Yeah. They are trying to get up and down as aggressively as they can under Isalo as their like guy who's running their offense now, I guess. They are third in pace per game and they are flying. It feels like every single time. Man, that Grizzlies team that played like their starting lineup right now is Santi, Jaren Jackson, and Zach Edey. And all of those guys are playing somewhere between 33 and 24 minutes a game. I mean, that's like three power forward centers that they're starting, and they just look drastically more athletic than Milwaukee. Yep. Like so much more so. It is pretty crazy to watch Bucks games right now. They need to figure out how to get more athletic. And that's where my main worry is. Like Middleton's going to come back, and he actually is going to help a little bit because he'll take some pressure off of Taurean Prince taking tough matchups. But at the same token, I don't think that he's really going to like add substantially to the athleticism. On top of that, it's another body to throw in. when you're already struggling to get Andre Jackson like 15 to 20 minutes a game, I feel a bit worried about where we're headed with Milwaukee right now. For them, like they are high on my pick. Honestly, I think right now they are my highest on the panic meter, given what we have seen from them to this point, and given the teams that they have lost to in Chicago and Brooklyn. All due respect to those two teams, genuinely, they have played really hard and played really tough early in the season. Chicago and Brooklyn look to have a more sustainable quality of play, especially on offense. If you're contending for a title, you kind of just can't lose to those teams regularly.
Yeah, they're going to be the ones we'll talk about. Probably the one I have the highest panic as well. And the thing is, other than Andre, obviously they're not going to play Beauchamp. I think they've sent that message loud and clear.
Yeah.
The rookies they drafted aren't ready. I mean, we talked about that, whenever the draft, when it did happen. I guess my point is there's not young guys on the roster that you feel like they're going to put into the lineup. And then what are the assets to go grab one, and as much as I praise their moves on the margins this summer, and I did, Torian's kind of the only one that's really hooping right now. And he's shooting the three really well, rebounding the ball. Gary Trent Jr. is really struggling from the field. I didn't think he was great defensively, at least as individually in that game I watched against the Cavs. And DeLon Wright hasn't brought a ton so far either. And so as much as I thought they kind of won those moves, it hasn't paid off here in the early going.
Yeah, I agree. It's a real issue. Like they have real problems right now watching them on defense. But now like the question is, how can they adjust and what can they do to get better? And that's where like I worry a little bit as well. Like to me, because like you have Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, and Brook Lopez, those are probably the guys that you have to look at moving, in my opinion. Like unless you're going to like completely blow this thing up and move Giannis and Dame, which I don't think is a reality at this point. Like Brook Lopez, because you're like way into the second apron, right? You either have to find an answer trading Bobby Portis for someone, Pat Connaughton for someone, or you have to trade Brook Lopez for like multiple interesting players, because given their second apron restrictions, they can't aggregate salaries and trades, and they can't take back more in a deal than what they're already getting. So I kind of do wonder if this is, and this is speculative, this is not me reporting this, I wonder if we're leading toward a Brook Lopez trade. Yeah. It's kind of where my mind has gone watching this team. It feels watching them like, and I don't blame this on Brook. I want to be clear. Like when I broke down the tape, like a couple, last week, I was like, look, like Brook might not be in the wrong here, but I know that he seems to be the one that's like frustrated and questioning what's happening on the court, at the very least, when he puts his arms up and when he's, wondering where the help, like things like that, wondering where the help is, everything like that. So I wonder if that's where we're going here, because due to those second apron restrictions, he is the name that makes the most sense if you feel like you need to get a change. And frankly, if you feel like you want to add more athleticism, you can move Giannis to the 5. I don't think he wants to do that a whole lot necessarily, just deal with the wear and tear. But you can add to your athleticism gap substantially by looking at moving Brook.
He's also on an expiring where Portis and Connaughton have player options next year, which I wonder
also
if that
true.
could play into it, even though his number is much higher than those guys. Like those guys together don't even quite hit his, but with that expiring, I wonder if it would make it a little bit easier to get him to a team that then that team knows they can either get off of him, or if they wanted to bring him back, then he's going to be back on a much, much smaller number for the final year or two of his career.
Yeah. Brook has been like Brook is the least of their problems when I watch them. Like, yes, I would like to see him make threes. I would like to see Gary Trent make threes. Like a big thing that I always keep thinking when I watch them is they have no margin for error, basically, because their defense is just so slow, like in terms of foot speed. But their margin for error increases substantially if Bobby Portis is not shooting 25% from three.
Yeah,
Brooke
sure.
Lopez is not shooting 29 from three. Gary Trent is not shooting 25 from three. Pat Connaughton's not shooting 26 from three. Like, they have some upward mobility in terms of their offense.
Yeah.
Still.
I would agree.
And they're going to get Middleton back as well, and that's going to be huge. I would imagine we don't see any big moves here until Middleton gets back and we see what that looks like. I am going to say, though, panic meter wise, I'm at about like an 8.5 or a 9, like something like that. I am quite worried about what I've seen so far. And look, like the Doc Rivers thing, like I'm also concerned about that. Like Doc has not been, since they have had Doc there, it seems like the message is not connecting, because with Doc there, they have a 1-5 record this season, and they went 17-19 last season after going 32-14 under Adrian Griffin and Joe Prunty. So there's clearly something like not happening here that is amiss.
I was going to go an 8. And part of that is not knowing, like, there's part of me that's nervous about Chris Middleton as well. I mean, we can talk about Chris Middleton coming back, but I don't know the history of coming back from double ankle surgery at age 33 with everything that he's been through. And so I guess I worry about what they get from him if and when he does come back. I mean, he will come back, I assume, but I guess I'm saying I don't know when it's going to be, like, I don't think we have that answer. So how long do they play without him? And then how effective is he even when he gets back, considering the history of injuries, this specific offseason of surgeries, and what that means for someone with the miles that he does.
Yeah, look, I thought he was awesome in the playoffs last year, so I'm really, really hoping that we get something like that again. I just think that there are a lot of moving pieces on this team, and they're not playing with any real togetherness, it feels like, at this point. I feel like they should probably be looking at getting Middleton back, seeing what it looks like, and then like a shake-up trade of some sort would be my guess on where this goes.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go to Orlando next. And this isn't because Orlando has started the season poorly. Orlando has been quite good when I've watched them this season. And if you look at the overall record, they're 3-3. The problem is that Paulo Banchero now is out for 4 to 6 weeks. And Paulo is such an important part of their offense. He is the guy for them that initiates a ton of their actions. The guy that like gets them into a ton of their sets. A lot of their offense is predicated upon him getting a mismatch, him being able to cultivate that mismatch, and then going from there. I am concerned about what their offense will look like in this time without Paulo, because it's going to be reliant a lot more on Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner being able to create advantages. And Suggs so far has been amazing this season. The Jalen Suggs leap is like very, very real. But Wagner was dealing with like an illness, I believe, for a minute there. Like he was sick for a couple of games in a row. I thought he was a little bit better in the Cleveland game. He turned it over a little bit, but he had like 17, 8, and 6. I hope that the shooting can come back for Franz. I think he's a really polished, solid, creative offensive player in ball screens, but he needs to be able to shoot. That's like a huge swing skill for his skill set. They're going to be fine when Paulo gets back. Like they're going to be excellent when Paulo gets back. But my question is, how well do you think they're going to be able to tread water without Paulo on offense?
Yeah, I mean, without looking at their schedule and, seeing what they have, they're 20th in offensive rating right now, with what they've gotten from Paulo, which was 5 of the 6 games they've played. So if they're 25th by the time he comes back, I wouldn't be surprised, just because he is such a hub of that offense. I think we're going to, sometimes the silver lining is we get a chance to find out some of these guys. And in a year where I don't know that like Orlando's a title contender, even though I did think Paolo was going to make a crazy leap. Sometimes it's okay to learn those lessons and find some things. Okay, how much can Franz be? How much can Jalen be? You know who I'm really fascinated to see, who I think's had a really good start to the year? Anthony Black. How much can Anthony Black be for this team? Can he take some of that? So can you do it between guys and make up for some of it while still being a top 10 defense? I don't think either of us thinks, I think they're 7th in defensive rating right now. I don't think either of us thinks that's going to drop because Paolo's gone, even though I do think he's better, but it's not going to drop. So like if they stay top 10 defense and we get a little bit better creation from some of the guys we've mentioned, maybe they can stay right around 20. Maybe they're a 500 team at the start of the new year when he comes back, and then they can make a little bit of a run here with him back in the lineup. What's scary, Sam, is you take out Franz or Jalen for any single game or stretch of time, and then that offense really tanks because you just don't have nearly the amount of creation you need.
Right. I think that that's my main issue, is that if anything else is to happen here, like it becomes like a real problem for them to be able to create offense. Look, like in terms of long-term panic, this is like a 2 or a 3 to me. I really liked what I saw from them early. I thought Paolo had taken a real leap. I thought Jalen had taken a real leap. Like I thought they were really positioning themselves to potentially be like a top 4 seed in the East. Without Paolo, I would say that my panic is like at an 8 or a 9, like pretty high, like for these 4 to 6 weeks that he's going to miss, just because I worry about the offense and worry about where they're going to get that offensive creation from. Because frankly, like this is another piece of it. They have built their offense around Paolo, just like creating a mismatch and getting like an early action to get Paolo a mismatch and then collapse the defense that way. They're going to have to like figure out a way to run more actions, it feels like, in order to get these guys looser. And that's just like not something that we've seen them do under Mosley yet. It could happen. Like I'm not sitting here saying it's not going to happen. I just think they're probably going to have to do something like that.
They do have good ball movers though. We've talked about this. They do have a good collection of ball movers where I feel like I could see it working though.
Yeah. The other guy I do want to point out is Tristan da Silva in their first game had 17 points and 5 rebounds. I'm really, really hoping that Tristan can come in and be valuable. Like that would be huge for them to be able to do something like 10 to 14 points a night as a rookie. And he's older. He's like 23, 24 years old. So you have hopes that, you know, drafting him, that he would be ahead of somebody like Jet Howard, like him, you know, playing 20 minutes and Jet Howard playing 17 minutes. I kind of think Tristan da Silva is a better basketball player than Jet Howard right now, like at this specific juncture, not in the future, maybe not in the future. I like Tristan a little bit more, but like, you know, regardless, even based on where they are age timeline wise, I would assume that Tristan might be a step ahead. So my last question for you on them is going to be, what do you think this means for their playoff seeding? And can the fact that they have, so just looking at their schedule, they have Dallas, Oklahoma City, Pacers all on the road in the next 3, then Pelicans, Wizards, Hornets, Pacers, 76ers, Suns, Clippers, Lakers, up until the 21st of November. So that would get us close to that 4-week mark there. It'd be 3 to 4 weeks. Can they survive that run?
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like I hear a few wins in there, even with that. I think where I'm trying to wrap my head around is, I'm just saying, I think Orlando, if they had Paolo, I would feel pretty comfortable betting that they were going to be a top 6 seed in the East. Now, where they actually end up, you know, is a deeper discussion. So my level of concern with them still being a top 6 seed in the East, I think is only a 5. Like, I think they can still get there right now based off the start of some of these other teams. Now, if you're saying them being a top 3 seed or a top 4 seed, like the best team outside of Cleveland, Boston, and New York, then that's a little bit higher of a panic, because I think this is going to really hurt them getting there. But I think after those 3 right now, it's like, I don't know who the 4th best team in the East is. And I don't know if we'll have an answer a month from now. And so I think I'm out of 5 just in terms of that. Like I don't think I'm scared about their chances to still be a top 6 seed.
I think that's probably right. And Sky Falcon in the YouTube comments brings up a good point.
Yeah.
Paulo is being reevaluated in 4 to 6 weeks. That does not mean he will be ready to play. He has a right oblique injury, I believe. So yeah, I hope. I love watching this Magic team. They've been one of my favorites to watch so far this year. It's a huge bummer that he is now going to miss a good portion of the season, because he was looking like a potential All NBA candidate early on based off of what we saw.
And this will probably eliminate him from the games played. He's probably going to miss at least 17, 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably about that. So, okay. Last Eastern Conference team before we get to one Western Conference team. The Indiana Pacers. The Pacers have just had a weird start. When I've watched them, they are 2-4. This team that made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They lost to the 76ers. Or no, they lost to the 76ers, I believe. They beat the Pistons by 6 early in that opener. And the Pistons have been feisty, don't get me wrong, but like that is a game you expect them to win pretty handily, I would argue. Get blown out by the Knicks. And then they lose to the Pelicans on the road as well. Within that mix, they beat the Celtics, which, was not expected. Let's go with. And then they tried to give away the Celtics game at the end. So like that kind of like put a weird taste in my mouth too, because they were up, I think 13 with like 2.5 minutes left. Where are you on the Pacers? Like, I guess like I put them on here just because I want to talk about them, and they've been kind of funky this year. Where are you on the Indiana Pacers as we talk through this?
They also don't have a backup center.
No, they currently do not have a backup center. That is accurate.
Because unfortunately, Isaiah Jackson has also torn his Achilles.
Yeah.
The same that James Wiseman did in that opener. And again, just awful for both of those guys. Jackson, restricted free agent. Wiseman has a team option next year. So young guys, hopefully they're able to bounce back and find their footing. But
for what it's worth on that, I am guessing based off of the fact that he played in the opener, I'm guessing that it will be Enrique Freeman minutes.
Yeah. Yep.
It's center.
What is wrong with Tyrese Halliburton? I guess is my first question back to you.
Yeah. So this is almost certainly where it has to start.
Yeah.
Halliburton has not quite been the same guy since the hamstring injury last year, where he ended up missing some time and then came back, and it seemed like he wasn't totally right when he came back. Then he goes to play at the Olympics, and now he's here. He's averaging 14 points, shooting 34, 24, 78 splits, averaging 7.3 assists per game, while actually playing more minutes than he has in each of the previous 2 seasons, when he averaged 10.4 and 10.9.
I'm glad you gave the numbers, because those assist numbers almost stand out to me as much as the scoring. And I know 7.3 is nothing to scoff at, but with Tyrese Halliburton, I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, they're drastically lower than what we've seen from him previously. He has set a standard in a lot of ways. I mean, this is a guy that when we did the 24 under 24, like we had ranked very, very highly, just because he has been the catalyst and driver of a top 3 offense in the NBA for quite a while now. And what I would like to see him just get like more consistent penetration and play better. Like, I feel like that's not asking too much based off of his game, but also like the biggest issue there with him getting consistent penetration and consistently being able to break down defenses is that the pull-up jumper just has not been the same since the hamstring injury. He has not knocked down pull-up jump shots. He was on like a Steph level clip in the first half of last season. He was making like 43% on, I think, like 10 attempts per game from 3 and making a ton of them off of pull-ups. But when he doesn't have that threat of the jumper off of the pull-up, he's not as athletic as some of these other dynamic guards. He's not as shifty as Trae Young, not as explosive as John Morant, not as powerful as Anthony Edwards. He needs the threat of the shot to be able to get defenders off balance. And I feel like because he doesn't have that right now, it is harder for him to actually get treated like a real scorer and thus break down defenses and get into the middle of the court.
So to start last year through 33 games, he was averaging 23.8 and 12.5 on 50, 40, 87, 8.4 3-point attempts per game. To end last year in 35 games, regular season, 16.8 points, 9.3 assists on 46, 32, 84.
Yeah.
I mean, so even, and it's continued to go down. He was a little bit better. He was better in the playoffs last year, but I think we excused away the second half of last season because of the hamstring, and it felt right to do so. But I even made note in one of them that I thought he looked healthy. I thought he had the juice back and the step and all of that. And he's just simply not making shots. And I just don't think they have the same ceiling. I think Pascal Siakam is a really good two-way player, and all credit to him. He's scoring the basketball very efficiently from the field right now, rebounding it. He's averaging over 5 assists per game. But if he all of a sudden is the number one player on your team and the driving force, I'm not as excited about this team as I was 10 months ago, whenever they were playing in the in-season tournament championship. Is that right?
Yeah. No,
against the Lakers. Is that right?
Definitely
So it's just been weird. Like, here's it. Like, Benedict Mathurin has been really good to start the season, and it's just Halliburton hasn't. Nembhard has not been good from the field. I don't know what
the whole
to make.
Backcourt just feels off in regard to like who's getting the shots when, kind of, which again, like last season was not a thing at all, because Halliburton just had these guys like humming and was getting them in and out of their sets, was sprinting the court, getting them up and down the court in transition, consistently hitting guys right in the shooting pocket, right where they wanted the ball. It does feel slightly off this year, just in terms of the overall like cohesion of what they're running and their timing and everything like that. And look, like this is a team where Andrew Nembhard just got paid and had a great postseason. And Ben Mathurin was not a huge piece of last season because he was hurt. And they bring in Pascal Siakam late, or at the midseason mark, and they had to adjust to him. So it would make sense that they're going through some things still to try and figure out where everybody is getting together. But it does come down to the fact that like Halliburton has to be their guy.
Yep.
And to this point, he has been a league average starting point guard, not a like all-star caliber point guard.
Yep. And the offense is so important for them because we know the defense isn't going to be top half of the league, right? Like, they have to be a top, they were second last year. I mean, they have to at least be top 5, right? To really be that level, because even last year they were 24th in defensive rating, the year before 26th. Right now they're 27th. That's kind of what you expect from them. So you can't be 17th even in offensive rating right now if you're the Pacers. If they were at least top 10, I'd be like, okay, like Halliburton's going to start making shots. They'll figure it out. But the offense just hasn't been at the level we've seen, and that it absolutely has to be to make up for what they give up on the defensive end.
Yeah, I think that's right. Okay. So panic meter here with the Pacers. Where are you?
6.5, 7. I'm nervous.
I think 7's about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly because of
I
would like to see Halliburton like just play better at a certain point. Honestly, like was one of my favorite players in the league last year for that first 33 game stretch, if not my favorite player in the league. And he is capable of playing better, but he hasn't done it in 10 months. So it's tricky. It's a tricky conversation there. Okay. Last team here, the Denver Nuggets. Okay. The Denver Nuggets are the strangest team to watch in the league right now to me, because they are 3-3 currently. The reason they are 3-3 is because their schedule is eased up. They have wins over the Raptors, Nets, and Jazz. They have lost to the Thunder, Clippers, and Wolves. The good news, 2 of those losses, the Clippers and Wolves, essentially one possession games. Like the Clippers was a 5-point loss, but that the 2 points at the end were free throws after fouling to try and get the ball back, right? Having said that, the Toronto game was an overtime win over Toronto. The Nets game was an overtime win over the Nets. So you can do this both ways in terms of being like, hey, they've figured it out. They've, righted the ship against some of the bad teams. Or you can say, and they've played okay against the good teams. They just lost close games, some of them on the road. Or you can say, no, we should actually be quite worried here because they're struggling to beat these, teams that we don't think are great right now. And they are not winning games against good teams. Where are we on this entire thing?
Nikola Jokic is incredible.
Unbelievable what he has done this year. Nikola Jokic so far.
Please give the numbers. Give the numbers, please.
29.8 points per game, 12.3 rebounds, 9.8 assists, shooting 56, 59, 80.
Say the shooting splits again.
56, 59, 80. And oh, by the way, on the 3-point numbers, he's taking 4.5 per game now, which is a career high.
59% from 3. Unreal. Rebounding the basketball. The passing is so silly. Sam, it is so silly. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah. I had a friend, Chris, that we had dinner with in Vegas, went to the Nuggets game last night and got really good seats and all of that. His son, who kind of had a blast. One of the best nights the young man's ever had. He has, some things. And, but he said watching Jokic in person is even more special. He said it's just unbelievable what Jokic do. But quick shout out, Carter Brown, my guy, got to take in his first NBA game last night. So, they don't shoot threes. I don't know what to think about them. They are last in the NBA in 3-point rate, but somehow 9th in offensive rating because Jokic is unreal.
Do you know why they don't shoot threes, Bryce?
Because they don't have shooters. That's why.
Correct. Michael Porter's still taking 7 of them.
And finally
Jokic
making them.
Taking 5 of them.
That helps, right? That Porter Jr.
Murray's not taking a ton because he's not shooting well, but
Murray's shot diet. Murray's shot diet is really difficult too. Like his shot diet everything seems so hard for him.
It does. I agree. He's not separating, which is why.
At all.
But then on top of it, like you have Strawther who's shooting 47% from 3, but he's just not playing a ton. The issue is that you have Russ, Peyton Watson, and Dario Saric, like all of whom are just like cratering them when they're on the court. And I think Russ will get better. Like he has to get better at a certain point. I don't know if it'll be better enough to where they can continue to roll it out, but like he'll get better. Peyton Watson, I think, just like can't continue to play this badly, or else they're gonna have to pull him from the rotation. Like it's to that point where he has been that bad. He is currently shooting 22, 10, and 90 right now. And even when I watch him, like I don't even know that it doesn't even feel like the defense has been quite as good as
I'm glad you said it, because I said in one of the recent games I watched, as much talk as there is about the offense, I don't know how concerned I am because Jokic is just going to figure it out for him. He's so good. He's going to figure it out. I think their defense is my bigger concern, Sam. Like, I think that's where I'm worried. I don't think Porter Jr. is very good on that end right now. I didn't think
he
Watson
just looks off when I watch him, by the way.
Yeah. I didn't think Watson was making the same impact. So I'm glad you saw the same thing. Obviously Murray, Russ is Russ. Sarge can't move. It's not necessarily, Strawther's thing. I think Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown are they're really good defenders, and Jokic's hands are amazing. Like he's really good for as little as he can move. Yeah. He gets his hands on everything, especially in ball screens. But I'm like, where's this defense go with some of these guys? And so I don't know. And then again, it's like, what young guys? I think you tweeted it out. Is it time to give Zeke Naji 15 minutes and see?
Yes.
Is it time to
Not
give
15, but like
12?
you gotta. He just has to come in for Sarge. Sarge is killing them when he's on the
Trey's-
court every time. I feel like
Trey Alexander had a decent preseason. Yeah, I mean, is it just time to try out some of these other young guys
Yes.
and see what they can do?
To me, yes. You know, they've tried Hunter Tyson a couple of times now.
Yeah.
I would go Najee at a certain point. I just think he can't be worse. Honestly, like, all due respect to Saric, like, he used to be a useful
Yeah.
player in multiple iterations. Like, there was a moment there for the first half of last year for Golden State where he was like a solid center, and he obviously used to be like a pretty solid wing, like a bigger wing forward shot creator. But yeah, he's late last year in Golden State, like, he started to show the wear and tear, and it was not going well. And I don't know why they chose to sign him, but we've litigated that already last week on the show. We don't need to do that again. The good news is, like I did say, like, something looks off with Porter, but like, Porter has been way better the last 2 games. Like, part of me wants to eliminate this Utah game where they're just like a total mess, but he was really, really good in the Minnesota game.
And I wonder if some of the defensive stuff was he was just missing shots, right? And you would like to think
Yeah.
that players don't let their offense dictate their defense, but they're humans. And so, like, I know from experience, whenever I was making shots, I probably had a little more energy to go grab a rebound and at least try to play defense, even if it was still awful. So Michael Porter Jr., maybe, you know, it gets frustrating, your energy's lower, all of that. And he was shooting really bad to start the season. So maybe that defense ticks up just a little bit as well.
Yep, that is fair. Okay. The other issue, and this is an issue we've kind of alluded to already and talked through, but it's not really an issue. It's just that Denver's starters are still fine. Like, they're still totally good. There's no concern here about Denver's starting lineup being bad. Denver's starting lineup in 118 minutes played, they've played more minutes together than any team or any 5-man lineup in the league so far. They're a plus 15 per 100 possessions, 131 offensive rating, 116 defensive rating. They've been great. Like, they have been totally great on that end. When the starters are in, they just really need to find bench answers. To me, I would try and go through some of the younger guys, and I would try to, I would definitely go Najee for Saric. That is one that I feel quite good about right now. I would see how Najee looks on that end.
Negative 9.2 still. Unbelievable.
It's crazy. And that's with a Utah game. Like, that is with a Utah game in there. Okay, so panic meter for them, I would say I am at like a 7, if only because they don't have a lot of trade options, because second apron team and a lot of, players that are a little bit polarizing league wide in terms of, are they good? Are they seen differently from organization to organization, despite having a lot of younger players that are interesting? Where are you on them?
I'm at a 5, and the only reason I'm not at an 8 is because Nikola Jokic. Like, I'm just like, he's going to figure it out for them offensively. He doesn't even need the spacing.
So here's what I would ask you to qualify here. What would qualify this as like panic for you? So like, I'm at like a 7 in terms of them like being a play-in team versus a playoff team.
Okay, so I'm at a 5 for that. I would be at a 7 or 8 if we were talking strictly title contenders. Like, I would be much higher if it was title contenders. I still think they're probably going to finish in the top 6. But I have major concerns much higher if we're talking championship level expectations. So maybe I should grade it on that, because that's kind of what I did for the Bucks. So I probably should raise it, because that's probably the only fair expectations for the Nuggets.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that seems reasonable if you're going like championship. Okay. Couple of other quick questions here, panic wise. Have you watched Houston much yet?
I haven't. I realized today I need to turn it on. They're a team I haven't got to. for whatever reason. I don't know why, because I do enjoy watching them. Obviously, I've followed, and it seems like there's some weird stuff there that's not clicking outside of Tari Eason.
Yeah, so like Şengün has not been very good
Yeah.
to this point. And the Şengün fit, look, like I talked about this last season and in the off season and now here, like I would like to see more about how Şengün and Jalen Green fit together. I'm not saying they don't fit together. I just would like to see them play well together at the same time consistently. That would be good for them, and that would be good to like help understand what this core is. Obviously, they paid both of them now, and it's not like I think they're going to have trouble moving either of them if they need to, like whatever you have to do. But yeah, I would like to see those guys play well together here at some point soon.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's important for those two guys, and I guess for them to figure out the rotation of all their other guys, you know, Tari, Cam, Amin, Reed, and you know, who gets minutes and all of that.
Van Vliet's been terrible.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
far.
That's the other.
Dylan
Yeah.
Brooks has struggled. Van Vliet is just like not playing well for whatever reason. He's really not shooting well. But they're still 3-3, and they're still, you know, scrapping and clawing at least on some level. You know, Şengün's like overall numbers don't look catastrophic. He's at like 15, 12 and 4 assists per game. But I don't know. You watch the games and you just get something different out of it. Like, didn't play a ton in the Golden State game. Didn't play a ton in either San Antonio games, really. Like, you know, looking at the box score here, 22 minutes, 26 minutes. Was not efficient in any way, shape, or form in the win against Dallas, you know, but did add 17 and 12. It's just kind of weird watching them kind of get through all of this and try to figure out what they have with him.
Yeah, that was the one thing that stood out as I do check, like look at box scores and stuff. I was like, man, why did he only play? And then you look at fouls, and it's like, okay, it's not necessarily foul trouble. So
no, it's true. Like Ime will talk after the game and he'll just be like, look, we felt better going with other guys, basically. Like, no, he doesn't say that in that many words, but like he says that.
Yeah, just interesting.
Okay. Finally, just quick on the Jazz. Like, how worried should the Jazz be about Keontae George and Cody Williams? Look, I don't. Cody Williams was always going to be a project this year. Like, I'm in no way, shape, or form concerned about that necessarily. I am a little Keontae though. Like, I've just never been quite as high on as some people either. I mean, if they think Keontae is going to be like their next star guard, then concerned. But if they think he can be like a good sixth man, like, you know, he's going to go through growing pains, and it is what it is.
Agreed. Yeah.
They're just very young too, is the other piece.
Yeah.
Like when I watch them, I'm just like staggered how young they are.
Yeah. I'm with you on Keontae. I've never saw the number one option backcourt starter. Like I always thought, like off the bench, you know, take on that role. And even for that role, he's got to get more efficient than what he is. I will say, if you want something to be excited about with Keontae, the passing has been better than what I thought it was going to be. There's a lot of turnovers, but the assist numbers are good. Cody Williams, I know we're going to talk rookies and sophomores over the next couple of weeks, so I won't go into too much, but assertiveness was part of the scouting report or lack thereof coming in, and I didn't think coming into the NBA was going to help that whenever he was a rookie. So we'll see if he can kind of figure it out.
I mean, look, this team right now, because Markkanen has missed a couple of games here, is starting Cody Williams, Kyle Filipowski, Keontae George, and Walker Kessler. Walker Kessler is the oldest of those players at 23, and then they're also starting Colin Sexton. So, like, it's just a very, very young group. It's impossible to win with at this time in their development. Okay. Bryce, it's time to bring up Andrew.
Let's do it.
And it's time for some trivia.
Andrew Claudio is here somewhere.
I'm here.
He is.
Apologies.
How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well. Life is good in the world of 5 out and Karl Anthony Towns. Just a happy Knicks report. Hi, Bryce. That was fun on Friday. Shout out to the Detroit Pistons.
Whoa.
What happened? What happened
Just
to the
fun
fun competitive Pistons?
I'm
that I was called
Firing
out?
already.
I'm never coming on Knicks Film School again.
Bryce joined me at ODark:30 in the morning on Friday, and we talked all about the fun and competitive Pistons. I guess it was Thursday that we did that pregame pod for Knicks Film School. And I was
Yeah.
like, all right, this should be a fun game against a new team. And the Knicks jumped out to a 41-17 lead at the end of the first quarter, and it would never got below 20 the rest of the game. Which, look, I co-sign what you said at the beginning, that the game against the Nets, the worst New York team that we don't care about here, that was much more competitive and much better, and a good win by the Pistons. But yeah, the life is good over here. What were the Jokic numbers that you mentioned before? The splits, the shooting splits?
56, 59, 80.
Yeah, Cat is averaging 60, 65, 91. So just throwing those numbers out there in case
Are
anybody
you
wants
Austin
to...
Riversing us right now? Is that what's
I don't
happening
know.
here?
I'm enjoying the world of nobody in the dunker spot. I love that this team plays at a level that 2024 can enjoy. To everybody on old head NBA Twitter that's like, I miss the days of layups and dunks and back to the basket. Personally, 3 is more than 2, and I like when my team adapts. So yes, life is good over here. How about you guys?
Oh my goodness. I am excited. So tomorrow night, when I do the night shift, post game theory, whatever we're gonna call this
Post game theory.
Post game theory.
That's my vote.
Probably is where it goes in the end. I'm definitely doing Knicks Rockets. Like, that is just a game that we'll talk about like 100%, and we'll dive into it and talk through everything that's going to occur there. And I couldn't be more excited because, watching Towns, I mean, my goodness, he has been unbelievable so far.
Mm-hmm. Took his talents down to South Beach last week and put 44 on Bam Adebayo's head. So that was
yeah.
fun.
And then I watched the first half of the Pistons game, and I was like, oh, this is like, the passing is pretty real right now too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he's been fantastic on offense.
I love how you guys open the show with the humanity of the players, and we respect them, and we don't talk down or slander them, and we look at them in a basketball sense. And I just come over here and ruin all of it, talking about all of them in the most slanderous ways possible. But I am nothing if not a New Yorker at heart, and that if you're not on this side, you're not on this team. So
that is true. That is very true. But you do it in a fun way.
Yes, exactly.
Enjoyable. Okay, Bryce, you are up. You have the show. It is trivia time.
I hope Andrew loses. So, entering Sunday, there were 18 players in the association that were averaging double-digit rebounds. That is 10 or more rebounds per game. 3 of those players don't even average 10 points per game, and another 5 of them don't average 15 points per game. So what we are looking for, Andrew and Sam, is the 10 players averaging 15 points per game and 10 rebounds per game. 15 or more points, 10 or more rebounds, 10 players.
Who are the 10 players?
Yep.
Averaging
15 points.
15 points and 10 rebounds. Okay.
There you go. Yes, sir.
I was excited. I thought you were going to do it the other way. And the other way sounds super difficult.
Not averaging 10 points?
Yeah. Not averaging 15. Yeah.
Oh, not averaging. Oh, the 8 that don't average 15. Yeah. I could have done that.
Yeah.
I know one of those because
who is it?
He plays for Josh Hart. Plays for the Knicks, and is he averaging?
Josh Hart is on that list.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that though. So you still lose. Hopefully you still.
Okay. Andrew, you are up. Go first.
No, Nikola Jokic.
Yep,
Nikola Jokic. Goodness gracious. Third on this list. 29.8 points, 12.3 rounds. A little unfair since we just rattled off those statistics, but nonetheless, 1-0.
Okay. Anthony Davis is my first.
Anthony Davis tops this list as I have it sorted by points with 31.8 points and 12 rebounds, having one hell of a year for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
I will go Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Giannis Antetokounmpo is second on this list in terms of points, 31 points, 12.3 rebounds. Oh, what did I do there? That was not smart. Get back. Okay.
You okay?
What did I do there that is
I grabbed my
smart?
I grabbed my
I
grabbed
say
my
that every
tab.
time I turn on the
Oh
Jets.
my God.
Bryce.
I grabbed my tab and moved it out of the way, and I did not like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have the top 3. Good job, guys.
Okay, so the only reason I know this one is 'cause I literally looked it up like a minute ago is when we were talking about the Rockets. Şengün is at 15 and 12.
Şengün is at 15 and 12. For what it's worth, he is the last name on this list in terms of points. So we are 2-2. 4 names. We are looking for number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
So this is where my propaganda pays off. I will go Karl Anthony Towns with my next
I was going
pick.
to say, I was about to get real pissed if you complained about no New York Knicks players being on these lists, and then you weren't even going to say him and let Sam guess him. Karl Anthony Towns, 22.2 points, 11.2 rebounds. It's crazy. So Jokic averages 29.8 points. He's 3rd. We go all the way to Towns at 22.2 for 4th. Just in terms of the points spread there. 3-2, Andrew.
Where is Şengün, by the way?
He was last. He was right at 15 points. So
got it.
Okay. My next guess, and I know that he was doing this like as of Friday. I'm not 100% sure how his most recent game changed it. Ivica Zubac.
He is still doing it. 17.5 points and 13 rebounds. He actually leads. He's tied for the lead, I guess, in terms of rebounds on this list. He would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He would be 7th on this list. You guys are 6 for 6. 3-3. We are looking for number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9.
You said Zubac is averaging 17 a game.
17 and a half.
So there's 2 players in between Zubac and Şengün.
Correct. So there's 2 players between Towns and Zubac. So between 22 and 17 and a half. And then 2 players between Zubac and Şengün, 17 and a half to 15.
Oh, this is fun. Okay. I'm going to come back to those 2 that are averaging between 15 and 17 a game. That sounds like the most difficult ones here, I think.
Yep.
Man, why is Luka Doncic on this list? Is he at 9? Is he at 10 rebounds yet?
Luka Doncic must not be at 10 rebounds because he obviously has.
He'd be averaging more points.
Yeah. So it has to be the rebound. Oh yeah, and he would have been. I mean, that's where I guess I kind of gave
scoring probably.
He would have been 4th. He's at 27.2, 8.4 rebounds. Not a bad guess, but considering the context, you kind of do have the points per game to work with here.
Okay. I'm going to go with Domantas Sabonis.
Sabonis. He falls into that list between Towns and Zubac at 21.5 points per game, and he is tied with Zubac at 13 rebounds per game. Impressive numbers from Sabonis. Sam takes the lead 4-3.
Jared Allen.
Jared Allen is on this list. Great.
Yeah. There you go.
15.1 points and 11.1 rebounds. So he was 9th on this list in terms of points per game. So we are looking for the 6th name on this list, which is between 17.5 and 21.5, and the 8th name on this list, which is between 15 and 17.5. So you're looking for a 20-point per game scorer and a roughly 16-point a game scorer.
The Bulls are playing super up tempo, so I'm gonna go Vooch.
Vooch is the answer for 21.5 points and 11 rebounds.
I was hoping he was the 9th place one, not that. Okay, wow.
Okay, Andrew, because this name is not an easy one, if you get this right, we'll call it a tie, and I will come up with a tiebreaker question on the spot.
So Sam's at 6, I'm at 3?
No, it's 5.
I'm at 4. Oh, okay,
it's 5-4. So so this is a tie. You can tie it with this name.
Okay. So I am staring at the NBA standings, And I'm trying to go through the. I don't think anyone in Miami has done it. Is this player active? Am I allowed to ask that? Like, is this a player that is still playing games and didn't just tear their labrum?
No. He did
Okay,
not.
so it's not Paolo. Okay. I don't think it's a Wizard. I don't think it's a Pacer.
Paolo doesn't average 10 rebounds a game for what it's worth.
Okay. Well, thankfully, no moron like me would say that. Or guess that.
I mean, he averages more than 8. It's not a bad idea. Other than you got to think about the points, right? You're living in.
We're looking at 8 points per. Oh, so that's what you're saying. It's eighth. It's 8th here. So it's
15 to 17
and Allen. Okay.
Yeah, 15 to 17 points. So like people like Paolo, not it.
It's not.
I think I have a name. So
I'm staring at Minnesota right now.
So here's my hint. This is a player we have talked about on this podcast with immense versatility.
Okay, so my name was not what I was thinking Ayton. So that's not.
It's not Ayton.
Oh, thank you. That eliminates a guess.
Ayton doesn't average the points.
Okay.
13.7.
No, he doesn't have the points. Okay, I eventually just have to take a guess at this. Yeah, I'll just say Draymond and be wrong. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, not Draymond.
No way he has the points. Yeah.
Probably doesn't have the rebounds.
Probably doesn't have the rebounds. Yeah.
Sam, you want
versatility.
Yeah, that clue.
Well, like
threw me
Bam
off.
started the season so poorly, so like I don't think it's Bam. Do you mean this podcast as in like the Game Theory podcast or this episode?
Yeah, no, not this episode. We did not talk about this player or his team on this specific episode. This is a player that we have talked about on this pod. I
mean, none of us have mentioned Wemby yet, and that feels weird.
I don't think he's the rebounds, but
he doesn't.
I also think he would have had the points before.
Yeah, he's not even on the list. He doesn't have the rebounds. Which is kind of crazy. This was a very themed episode that we talked about him as well. So if you can think about some of the themes we did this offseason.
Okay.
We did under 24. We did over 32. We did breakout players. In one of those episodes, we talked about this guy a little bit, and on other episodes, to be honest with you. Like, once you guess, I'm going to give a better hint because I kind of want it to be a tie, even though Andrew pissed me off.
Sorry.
Huh.
I got nothing.
Oh, damn.
No, it's fun this way. We might get a bunch of guesses. Sam
still has to guess. Okay.
Go ahead, Sam. I'm staring at the standings like so intently right now.
Versatility. So, like, is it Chet?
I have a guess.
It is not Chet.
It's not Chet. Okay.
He was on a list of ours this offseason.
So Chet was your guess, right, Sam?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay.
Honestly,
so
I thought Wemby was my guess, so you're definitely up.
Now I'm going through your lists, and thank you, Sam, for making me do poll videos for each one, so that way I can now go through each one that I pulled. I'm trying to dig. All right, I'm looking at the Eastern Conference.
Good conference to be in.
I wonder.
I don't think he has the rebounds. I'll just guess Jalen Johnson.
Jalen Johnson.
That was also my guess. Yeah.
Okay.
How about that?
Jalen Johnson, 10 rebounds per game, 16.3 points. So,
okay.
All right. Woo! Here's the tiebreaker. And I don't like over-under stuff. So, oh, no, we won't go over-under. We'll just go. What player on this list has the best free throw percentage? So reminder, Anthony Davis, Giannis, Jokic, Cat, Sabonis, Vooch, Zubac, Jalen Johnson, Jarrett Allen, Alperen Şengün. How do we want to do this so it's fair? Can I trust both of you to say the name that you're actually thinking? Like, not just copy. How do we want to do it so it's fair?
I think we just go back and forth, and
so whoever gets it
because I
right,
got to 5 first, I go first.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
That works for me. Let's do it. So, Sam?
I am going to say I'm down to 2 names. This is gross. I'm going to say Vooch.
Vooch at 95% from the free throw line this year on over 3
I was either going to say Vooch or Cat.
So those are the 2 guys over 90%. Cat's at 91.7. Jokic, Sabonis are over 80, and then a few of them over 70. But those were the 2.
Yeah,
well done.
There we go.
Very nice.
That was good.
Yeah.
Love it.
I obviously knew Cat, so I wouldn't have guessed Vooch. So well done, Sam.
I kind of was just like, okay, I'm between these 2. I'm going to leave you Cat because I figured if it's Cat, it'd be good for you to get the win that way by saying Cat. It'd be a good bit. But
Exactly.
I'm glad we got it.
I mean, it was honestly a setup because I was hoping he would guess Cat and get it wrong. So
yes, that's the plan finally being revealed. That this would have ended with me bragging about the Knicks and me ending hyping up the Knicks after their blowout win over the Pistons on Friday. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Andrew, GMAC, our fearless leader here at the Game Theory Podcast. Tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
You could find my work for Knicks Film School at Knicks Film School on YouTube, podcasts, wherever podcasts are available. If you want to go back and listen to a pleasant conversation previewing the Knicks game against the Detroit Pistons that happened on Friday with one Bryce Simon, it is available on the Knicks Film School YouTube channel, as well as all our post-game stuff, as well as our off-day content. It's all broken down at the Knicks Film School YouTube channel. Right before we started this pod, was editing the next pregame pod for the Knicks game against the Rockets that Sam was alluding to. 8:45 start here in New York. Not my favorite, but you can join us for our pre and post everywhere podcasts are available. And of course, Game Theory Sam V on all socials, where you should be following along with everything that we're doing. And I just want to plug, because I think it's just the right name and a great idea from Sam. Post-game theory that happens after the night slates. It's got brand identity, and it's exactly what it is. It's right after the game, so it's post-game. So tune in for post-game theory anytime Sam goes live.
I will be honest, that is the way I'm leaning currently, is post-game theory. There is a groundswell for night shift, but post-game theory is the way I am leaning.
If
Bryce,
we're going with the popular vote, then fine. Then you go with that. I personally think that I'm the state of California here, and the Electoral College has to matter in this sense. So, or maybe I should have stuck with the theme on the state of New York.
Tell the people where they can find you, Bryce.
Yeah, Bryce.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, you can find any podcasts like Knicks Film School that I go on and guest, the Substack, anything like that. And if you want Pistons talk, I am going live immediately after this ends on the Pistons Pulse podcast. We're going to talk about today's win and the last week of Pistons basketball. So if you want some more Pistons content, we're firing up in about 3 minutes. Otherwise, you can find me right here on the Game Theory Podcast with the Sam Vecenie and the best guy to run the show behind the scenes, GMAC.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. I will have a thing tomorrow just dumping some of the intel I've gotten from scouts regarding the 2025 NBA draft in the preseason here. College basketball starts coming up here. So that is a thing that we're going to have to wrap our heads around, Bryce. That is coming.
No. Tomorrow's slate is ridiculous. Like, it stresses me out every time I look at it. It's silly.
So I haven't looked at it yet. Do I want to?
No.
Like, am I going to get like a little bit stressed?
Yes. Don't do it. Just
don't. Is there are there good games? Like, I know Duke plays Maine, and like they're doing the Cooper reunion, but
there's no good games, but everybody plays. I don't know how they have enough officials for
I'm like less I'm less concerned about that. Texas plays Ohio State. I will probably watch that. Oh, Baylor Gonzaga is tomorrow. That will get watched. We will. That's a good question. How will I handle the post game theory with Baylor Gonzaga? Not sure about that yet. I will let you guys know how I'm going to think through that yet, and if we will talk about Baylor Gonzaga or if we'll just stick to the NBA on those things. Okay. Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. Go to the YouTube channel, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie. A lot of you are subscribing. We appreciate all of the support on that thing. We could not seriously appreciate more how much that thing has grown. We are nearing 13,000 subscribers at this point. We are just really, really growing. Hit the subscribe button there. We do some fun things. Go subscribe to all of your many podcasting platforms, the Spotify links, the Apple podcast links, whatever platform you're using. We appreciate all of the support. Shout out to PrizePicks. Shout out to BetterHelp. Sponsors of the show. Really, really appreciate their support. I think that's all we got. So until next time, we'll talk soon.